Today we're going to learn how to tell time in Spanish, obviously. I'm hoping that you already know how to tell time, and so I'm just going to teach you the Spanish part. The learning objectives for this lesson are that you will be able to ask and answer what time is it in Spanish, state the time in Spanish, and ask and answer at what time in Spanish. When you're talking about time on the dot, it's pretty simple. You say en punto. So the question is, ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? ¿Qué hora es? To answer it, if it's right on the dot, son las dos en punto. It's 2 o'clock. Son las tres en punto. It's 3 o'clock. Son las ocho en punto. It's 8 o'clock. The only time you say anything different than son las and then the number is if it's 1 o'clock, because 1 o'clock is singular and 1, and all the other hours in Spanish are plural. We don't talk about time like this in English. We say o'clock. So, but in Spanish, they say it is or there are however many hours. So it's okay to think about it like es la, meaning is 1 o'clock, and son las, meaning are however many hours, and the rest of them are plural. Are 2 hours, are 3 hours, is 1 hour. So es la una, it is 1 o'clock. And then en punto, meaning on the dot. Here is some important vocabulary for when you're telling time. Media means half or 30 minutes. In English we say 30, 2:30. In Spanish you say y media, and 30 or and a half. Cuarto is like a quarter or 15 minutes. We might say in English 3/4 after 3. In Spanish you would say y cuarto, and a quarter. De la mañana, in the morning. De la tarde, in the afternoon. Or de la noche, in the evening or at night. We use AM and PM sometimes to specify if we're talking about 5 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock at night. In spoken Spanish, most often if they want to specify in the morning or at night, they use these expressions, de la mañana or de la tarde. If you're reading Spanish and you're looking at like a bus schedule or a train schedule, anything that's going to have the time printed on it, instead of using the 12-hour clock, they use the 24-hour clock to specify if it's in the morning or at night. So they don't really use any abbreviation AM or PM. Like I said, if they're speaking, they're going to use one of these expressions, and if it's printed somewhere or you're reading Spanish, a lot of times they'll use the 24-hour clock so that you don't have to worry about if it's in the morning or the afternoon. Mediodía is noon. Medianoche is midnight. Now, if it's ever the time, if you say what time is it or ask what time is it, and the time isn't just on the dot, right on the hour, all you do is add the number of minutes using what, like E. So I'll show you some examples of that. ¿Qué hora es? It's 2:30. You say son las dos y media. It's 2 and a half, or 2:30. ¿Qué hora es? It's 3:15. You say son las tres y cuarto. It's 3 and a quarter. It's also just as correct to say son las tres y 15. It's 3 and 15. ¿Qué hora es? Son las ocho y 10. It's 8 and 10, or 10 after 8. ¿Qué hora es? Notice this one's a little different because it's in the 1 o'clock hour. You say es la una y 20. It's 1 and 20, or 1:20. ¿Qué hora es? And of course, it doesn't always have to be on right and even number. If you want to be very specific about the time, you can say son las 11 y 18. It's 11 and 18, or 11:18. Now, This is all too easy. So there is a little bit of a twist when you're telling time in Spanish. So far, we've just looked at the time being up to 30 minutes after the hour. After you pass 30 minutes past the hour, you have to say that it's the next hour minus the number of minutes to get there. For example, if it's 4:45, you're actually going to say in Spanish, it's 5 o'clock minus 15 minutes. So you would say, son las 5 menos cuarto. Or you could say, son las 5 menos 15. It's 5 minus a quarter, or it's 5 minus 15 minutes. So anytime that the minutes are past 30 on the clock, so that's why I put the bracket on that whole left-hand side of the clock. Anytime the minutes fall on that side of the clock, you actually say it's the next hour minus the number of minutes to get there. For example, 7:50, we're going to say it's 8 o'clock, son las 8 menos 10, minus 10. 10:40, son las 11 menos 20. It's 11 o'clock minus 20. So that is when you're asking, what time is it now? There's a whole nother question, like at what time, when you're asking when something is going to occur. So for that, you say, ¿a qué hora? At what time? ¿A qué hora es la fiesta? At what time is the party? To answer it, you say, a las, at. A las 2:30. It's at 2:30. Or if you want to answer very completely, you can say, la fiesta es a las 2:30. The party is at 2:30. ¿A qué hora es la clase de español? At what time is Spanish class? A las 8 de la mañana. It's at 8 o'clock in the morning. ¿A qué hora trabajas? At what time do you work? Or what time do you work? At what time in Spanish? Trabajo a las 11:15. Oops, I wrote in Spanish, I work at 11:15, and I wrote next to it in English, I work at 11:30. Just checked. See if you're paying attention. ¿A qué hora descansas? At what time do you relax? Descanso a las 9 de la noche. I relax at 9 at night. Now it's time to check yourself. Can you ask and answer the question, ¿qué hora es? Can you state the time in Spanish using proper format and vocabulary? Can you ask and answer ¿a qué hora kinds of questions? If so, muy bien, you get an A+.